Hello, I'm Shirley Trainer Thomas, Senior Vice President of Business Development for GuideStar Clinical Trials Management. Because we've been getting quite a few questions from community hospitals about if and how clinical research is possible in their organizations, I wanted to provide an overview of how you could begin to make that determination. I will be talking about the benefits of a research program for community hospitals. I'll outline the kinds of organizational questions that should be asked and describe the building blocks for the research operations model. I'll also explain the shift to community settings for pharmaceutical and device trials and describe the types of trials that are important to a successful research program. When talking with hospitals, we're often asked if research in a community hospital is appropriate and if this type of strategy is beneficial to an organization. Well, yes and yes. I'm going to start by describing the types of benefits a hospital gains from having a clinical trials program and then walk through ways to help determine if a research program is a good fit for your organization. So, what's in it for the community hospital? The answer to that is simple. With a clinical research reputation comes what we call a halo effect. That halo includes an enhanced image, a new revenue stream coming in through clinical trial activity, the ability to provide novel, cutting-edge therapies to patients locally, meaning they're not leaving the market to find care elsewhere, enhancement to service lines and centers of excellence, contributions to improving community health, opportunities to raise funding through foundations, and, of course, another way healthcare providers can help save lives today and tomorrow. But how do you know if research will work in your organization? Managing a clinical trials operation is unlike typical hospital operational and financial management. The rules are set by the FDA, and a research program must maintain the highest level of compliance. The first question to ask is, will the strategy of a clinical research program be supported and embraced by leadership to the point of being incorporated into the hospital's overall strategic plan? This is a very important question because it's imperative that the leadership fully understand the potential benefits of this effort as well as looking at those potential challenges. A research program isn't something that becomes overwhelmingly successful by simply sticking your toe in the water. It must have the proper level of support and resources early on to grow into a robust program that creates that halo effect, which plays a role in increasing market share. The next question you should ask is, are your physicians interested in conducting clinical trials? Without the physicians, there's no research. How the question is asked is important. If you simply ask, are you interested in conducting clinical trials, some physicians may immediately become intimidated because of their understanding of the total workload and paperwork required. But it's a different ballgame if you pose the question this way. If the hospital created a research program that managed all of the administrative support functions and provided clinical research coordinators to screen and enroll patients and manage those patients on the protocol, would that be of interest? Most of the time, the answer is yes. Physicians are scientists. Research is appealing to them. So, once you've decided you indeed have the administrative and physician support, you should be realistic about your capabilities. Do you have enough patient volume so that you have a good pool of patients for trials? And do you have several specialties that would support a research program? Ideally, 3 to 4 strong service lines with good patient volume will support a full research program. Okay, so now you've determined you have leadership support, physician support, and several service lines to include in research. The next important step is to look at the financial expectations, meaning what level of revenue will clinical trials generate? The best way to estimate is to look at industry averages of trials per specialty. It's difficult because every trial is so very unique with a varying range of protocol activity. Finding industry standards for trials that are similar to the ones you foresee conducting is the best way to gauge revenue. The way pharmaceutical and device companies reimburse for services is on a per-patient enrolled basis. So in addition to the estimated payment, you will need to factor in what level of enrollment is possible, talking to interested physicians about the protocol criteria, and examining your patient population can help you determine what your potential for enrollment could be. Asking the right questions in the right way to carefully and thoroughly evaluate the potential for a research program will arm you with the information you need to make a choice that's best for your hospital. It's important to note that a research program needs time to ramp up. As you're developing the operational structure, communications with companies that have potential trials must begin. Once there is awareness of the clinical trial, the steps that are required to get to the point of initiation could take months. Patience and persistence are key. If after determining that leadership fully understands the concept and is embracing the research strategy, and that physician support and interest exist, and that 3 to 4 service lines are appropriate, plus the financial potential is positive, then you will need to turn your focus to developing the most efficient model that will allow for steady growth and determine what resources and knowledge bases are necessary. Those resources include having staff with research experience capable of performing all tasks involved in clinical trial activities, such as screening and enrolling patients, protocol management, regulatory document management, billing processes, and clinical trial pipeline development. You'll also need an efficient, compliant IRB. That's critical for a program to be successful. That means the IRB needs to meet regularly, have a quick turnaround time on trial notification, and really understand the role it plays in human subject protection. You'll also need to have a solid grasp on how to manage research finances, and you'll need a clinical trials management system that keeps track of revenues and expenses, because research financial management is very different than that of typical hospital financial management. Plus, you'll need to have a good understanding of how to negotiate clinical trials budgets with pharmaceutical and device companies to ensure profitability. You'll also need to ensure active participation from your physicians in several specialties and make sure there's adequate space for staff and storage. And of course, marketing. Include the research message in marketing. That's key to image enhancement and getting the attention of pharmaceutical and device companies. Okay, now let's take a look at where pharmaceutical and device company trials are being placed. 20 years ago, these types of clinical trials were almost exclusively conducted in academic medical centers. But as pharmaceutical and device companies continue to explore ways for greater efficiencies, they began turning to community hospitals and physicians. What they've come to realize during the past 2 decades is that community hospitals have the ability to get trials activated quickly and have a solid patient volume. As community hospitals became more successful and interested in research, a major shift in where trials are placed has occurred. Today, almost 70% of pharmaceutical and device trials are conducted in community healthcare settings. Now, I want to define the types of clinical trial activity I'm referring to. I'm not talking about phase 1 trials that are first in humans, but more late phase 2 and 3 trials in which dosing and effect on medical issue is being evaluated. Also, I'm talking about industry-sponsored trials, meaning those that are funded through pharmaceutical and device companies. Community hospitals are in a prime position to take advantage of that changing trend of sponsors placing trials within hospitals such as theirs. But remember, it requires multiple components to be successful. That administrative support, physician support, understanding revenue, commitment to the necessary resources, and finding the right trials for your hospital and physicians. All of these are keys to the foundation of a solid clinical research program. Thank you for taking a few moments to learn more about the benefits of conducting research and how to determine if it's the right strategy for your hospital. At GuideStar, we're passionate about bringing clinical trials to the community. GuideStar Clinical Trials Management works with hospitals and health systems around the country to build, manage, and support clinical research programs, from helping hospitals incorporate a clinical trial strategy to actually managing the research operation through a co-sourced model. Our service delivery is based on operational and financial best practices to ensure optimal results for research programs.